everybody, it's Jordana. I'm a pediatric dietitian, and today I'm going to be talking to you about lactose intolerance and gluten intolerance in babies and young children. I'm going to be looking at them separately. So first off, we'll look at a lactose intolerance. When we look at the kind of frequency of a lactose intolerance, it's actually very rare for a baby to be lactose intolerant. And the reason being is that we're genetically programmed to need milk to survive. And milk, be it breast milk or be it formula, does contain lactose, and the basis of it is going to be lactose. Some babies, we can see that they are having issues, so we might be prescribing lactase enzymes to them in the form of a liquid that mum can just be putting around her breast if she's breastfeeding, or in the formula we could be putting 1 or 2 drops. But like I said, it's very rare for a baby to be lactose intolerant. We can, however, develop a lactose intolerance, and this would be a temporary lactose intolerance. The times that we would be developing this is if I've had severe diarrhea and this diarrhea has been ongoing for a couple of days. Essentially what's happened in the digestive system is that we've got a wall. If we think about this wall of digestive system, we have these little fingers or these little villi that are running down our digestive system. And from these villi, we're producing the enzyme that's called lactase that we need to break down the lactose from milk products. If we're having diarrhea for a couple of days, what happens is that these villi start to become sloughed off. So eventually we have our digestive system that has no fingers left. So in these cases, we would potentially be moving babies onto a lactose-free formula for a period of 14 days, and this allows these villi to grow back, and so allowing that lactase to become available again. We wouldn't be cutting out lactose also completely necessarily if we think that our babies are, or our young child, our young toddlers, is lactose intolerant. It's got to do with that there is a tolerance level. So some dairy products are going to have a much lower lactose content than others. Things like yogurt, things like cheese contain a much lower lactose content, and some cheeses, for example, don't even have any lactose present in them. So our babies then, or our young child, are able to tolerate these types of foods. And it might be that actually we can have these foods, or we can have even milk, but we can only have milk once a week, or we can have milk once every 2 weeks. And if we have it sporadically, it's okay. But if we were to have it every day, that's when we start to see a major issue. The first sign often that we see of lactose intolerance is if we are having diarrhea. Now next up is going to be that gluten intolerance. Unfortunately, gluten intolerance has become quite a fad thing of late, and so everybody is trying to notice that, or if we cut out wheat or we cut out gluten, that we're noticing a difference, and so we're putting those same guidelines onto our children and onto our babies when they're starting solids. But for a lot of the cases, particularly if we're looking at where that gluten-containing food is coming from, we can actually see that it's not a gluten intolerance that some people have. It's actually that they have an intolerance to the pesticide that is used during that growing process of the wheat that actually makes that gluten product. So you've got to kind of look at where things are coming from. But when we are looking at a true gluten intolerance, the way that we would be diagnosing this is I would be referring you, if I would be considering that your baby, that your child has a gluten intolerance, I would be referring you to a pediatrician. And that pediatrician would be doing proper tests. So gluten intolerance is not something that can be tested just by a blood test, or just looking at kind of, oh, I think that they've got it, so let's just cut out our foods. There are certain parameters that we need to look at for gluten intolerance to give a diagnosis. Things that your child might be complaining about is that they have really sore tummies. They might start to kind of decrease the quantity of foods that they're eating just because it is causing them so much pain that they don't want to be eating that food. You might notice that their tummies are a little bit distended or a little bit bloated. You might notice a change in their poo pattern. So I'm either getting constipated, I'm either getting a little bit more diarrhea, or the number of times that I'm going becomes less or more. These are all going to be signs of possibly there could be an indicator here. Other things to look at is your child actually more irritable or lacking kind of that energy? They're feeling more lethargic. You're noticing that they're wanting to sleep a little bit more. Sometimes you'll notice that they get a little bit blacker under their eyes. These are going to be indications of potentially let's do some investigating. We wouldn't be just randomly taking out gluten-containing foods if we don't have that true diagnosis. We're wanting that diagnosis, and then you would be removing those gluten-containing foods. And it would be a need that these foods always need to be removed from their diet, which is why then I would be saying refer yourself to, get referred to a dietitian so that a dietitian can help you understand food labels and what you're actually needing to be avoiding so that you can make better choices in terms of what your children is eating. I hope this has helped. There's a lot of information to cover with these types of intolerances, but in terms of our other intolerances, the best way for us to notice if there is an intolerance is for us to record, remove, and then reintroduce. We have to do that third stage of reintroducing for us to see if there is a true intolerance. This, however, is not the case with gluten, and we would rather be doing the medical tests with gluten. Okay, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. See you all soon. Bye!